Now we'll move on to the next paper by Dr. Vijendra Kumar SK. It is about Shakuntala beyond the victim of amnesia. Vijendra Kumar.
Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste to all the co-panelists and audience. My paper today, Shakuntala, Beyond the Victim of Amnesia. I am working as assistant professor and counselor at Center for Counseling and Career Guidance, PS University, Bangalore. Shakuntala, we know, is a popular love story between Dushyanta and Shakuntala. And Shakuntala was cursed by Durvasa, and she had to lose. She lost her ring also while going to meet Dushyanta, and Dushyanta couldn't recognize, and he refused to accept her. There's a story in Mahakavi Kalidasa's Abhijnana Shakuntala. And so here, Shakuntala was victim of Dushyanta's amnesia. So Dushyanta lost the memory of meeting Shakuntala and union with her through Gandharva marriage. But Shakuntala was the victim who suffered silently. But of course, later she got magical support and divine intervention. Okay? That's a different story. But the original story was in Mahabharata, Adiparva. The original story is a little bit different. It is not so romantic and Shungara oriented. It is a very dry, that's what they say, the critics, the dry romantic story. In Mahabharata, Shakuntala was he meets Dushyanta directly. And after the child, months, she was highly assertive, resilient, and optimistic person who believes in human exertion. She does her best to make Dushyanta aware of the dharma and his duties as a husband, father, and duty-bound king. So the dialogue between Shakuntala and Dushyanta is very, very interesting and very significant also, in terms of to understand her personality. So go to the next slide. So here Dushyanta first proposes Shakuntala to marry because she was also Kshatriya and he was also Kshatriya. And it's a Savarna marriage, it's okay to get married. And she accepted his proposal, but with condition. So what is the condition? She said, the son that shall be begotten on me shall become heir apparent. This working is my fixed resolve. If you grant this, then let our union take place. So anyone sees this dialogue, the transaction between the Shakuntala and Dushyanta, we can easily say she is highly assertive. We don't think that the maiden is innocent or submissive person or not assertive. Okay. So Shakuntala is highly assertive person, and she says it is my fixed resolve. I don't want to change that. And Dushyanta agrees for that, and they got married through Gandharva Vivaha type. And after the union, Dushyanta had to go back to the Hastinapura or his capital immediately. Okay. Then what happens here? Let's again analyze. Next slide. So Kanva, the sage Kanva comes back to ashrama, and he knew that through his spiritual power, the marriage between Dushyanta and Shakuntala, he tells Shakuntala that it's okay. Whatever you got, what the act you have done in secret, it is acceptable. Okay? And the boy who burns out of the consequences is, he will be the great king. And no one could resist, and he's going to rule the entire earth. So till this time, Shakuntala was a bit shy to meet, Kanva, and then she sits next to him and took care of him, whatever the hospitality to be done for her father. And then she says, Could you grace Dushyanta and his governance, ministers, treasurer, the entire thing, his ruling kingdom? And Kanwa says, yeah, for your sake, I'm going to do that. And he does that. Then Kanwa asks Shakuntala, you also deserve a boon. Then she asks for a boon, you know, Dushyanta and the future Pururavas or Paurava monarchs. Dushyanta was part of the Pururava lineage. Let them be virtuous and not deprived of their throne in Hastinapura for a millennium. So if you analyze this or if you see the statement of Shakuntala, it shows, she's one of the greatest self-sacrificing person. She thinks in case for her husband and kingdom, her self-sacrificing is unconditional and not demanded by anyone. So if you see cases like Karna was demanded, and then he sacrificed. Dadicha was demanded, and then he sacrificed. Aditi in other cases like Shibi. Okay? There is a need for such support, there is a need to self-sacrifice, and he did it. But here, Shakuntala was unconditional. Nobody asked her, nobody demanded her, and there is no need also. That shows she was, highly selflessness. Selflessness is, not exactly there is no self or something, but there is no selfishness. There is no selfish behavior or intention in her action. So this shows the maturity in her thinking from the larger future perspective. She has a vision. Her values and her personality is towards that vision. Next slide, please. So, after some time, she delivers a boy baby, and they take care of all the sage Kaduma take care of the boys' samskaras, initial samskaras, and the boys he was very strong. After 7 years, he thought it's the best time for Shakuntala to go back to her husband in Hastinapura, and she sent her through disciples, and disciples go with her to Hastinapura assembly where Dushyanta was ruling, and they introduced her to the king, and they came back, they returned. Then Shakuntala tells Dushyanta that he is our son. We got married in Gandharva, and he was our son. You install him as a heir apparent. And Dushyanta refuses to accept her suggestion. He refused to acknowledge her that he got married with Shakuntala, and something like that. It is a very shocking thing for Shakuntala. And what the Mahabharata author portrays here, what he mentions, the fair-colored innocent one became abashed. Grief deprived her of consciousness, and she stood for a time being like a wooden post. So it was a sudden shock, and she became frozen. For a moment, she did not know what to say. It's very interesting to observe here that the exact whatever they mention is something like frozen feeling. Whenever we go through apparent immediate shock, some sudden shock, okay, we become like a wooden post. So it is observed in 5,000 years back. Not only this, all the feelings were observed in Mahabharata and Ramayana, it is there. But this is very different from other feelings like Krodha, Kama, or Lobha. This frozen feeling, it is observed in Mahabharata time also. So nowadays we say that it's frozen feeling and it's part of to come out of the intense fear what we are having, and so it takes time for us to go through it and come to some kind of challenging or defending the situation. So this frozen feeling, whatever they have written, is very similar to what we observe in the present day frozen feeling. Next slide, please. So Shakuntala was very angry with Dushyanta. She was in a rage. Okay. Almost her rage was to burn the lad, Dushyanta. Okay. So, but she doesn't want to do that. She comes down. She extinguishes her anger through extraordinary effort, through her asceticism. So this shows that Shakuntala is a person who has Chita Prajna, the Chita Prajna quality of what we say in Bhagavad Gita. She was inculcated all those qualities. It is not easy to suppress the anger in such kind of situation, but she was able to do that. Her self-control was unimaginable, and it might have, she got it through her asceticism, in that ashrama practice, ashrama lifestyle. She was able to learn all those things. Next slide. Shakuntala. So then Shakuntala addresses the king in anger. She questions him on his truthfulness. She questions him spiritually, philosophically, and guides him to be truthful. So it is not easy for anyone to control their emotions and talk about philosophy spontaneously in the intense distress. But Shakuntala was able to do that. And her speech, if you observe whatever she said, I'm not able to mention here exactly. Those statements are, non-erring, fluent, clear talk of Shakuntala shows knowledge of, and expertise in Vedic scriptures. She had all the knowledge of Vedic Purusharthas. What is Dharma? What is Artha? What is Moksha? And what is inner being? And she was able to present it to the other people in that emotionally ruptured context. It is not easy. It is not easy for any human being who is alone and present this kind of talk to the unknown strangers who have authority. So this particular behavior of Shakuntala is unparalleled. It is not there in anywhere in Mahabharata or in Ramayana. Draupadi comes somewhere near to her, but not exactly similar behavior. So this shows that Shakuntala was highly, we can say that she is an icon of positivity. Highly resilient, self-reliant person who keeps her self-respect par with Draupadi. Okay? Her self-respect is very, very significant. Next slide, please. Next slide. So Shakuntala questions Dushyanta, gets angry with him due to the pain she got during her dialogue. Okay, she was in touch with the pain. Okay. She was left out when she was a small baby by Menaka. Okay. But she did not abuse him. She did not say anything with lewd remarks. Okay. But Dushyanta was very, very nasty and lewd. He was saying some lewd things to her, like a prostitute. This caring and non-judgmental character of Shakuntala has been observed in the speech on Good Wife, shows that she is not just a preacher, but inculcated those values and qualities in herself. So this shows that Shakuntala is an icon of positivity. Whatever the positive qualities one can have in their ideal life, she showed it, she practiced and showed it to the society. Next slide. Next slide. So she continues, no man, even in anger, should ever do anything disagreeable to his wife, seeing that happiness, joy, and virtue, everything depends on the wife. Wife is the sacred field in which the husband is born. Even rishis cannot create creatures without a woman. She explains that how a woman's companionship is significant for a man to find meaning in his life. Shakuntala is proud of herself for being a woman. Here she says, Bharya Shreshtatama Satva. Wife is the best friend for a man. So it is not easy for a person to say this kind of very psychological, empathetic words to the others who are authority figures, okay, in a huge assembly, and during that such kind of distress. But Shakuntala was able to do that. Next slide, please. So I could say that Shakuntala is an empowered person. See, we see many people advise others, kings or the ministers and all. Okay, like Krishna preached Arjuna in the Kurukshetra when Arjuna was in distress. Or many rishis, sages came to Yudhishthira when he was in depressed condition. Or even Rama, Vasishtha preaches Rama. But in all these conditions, okay, whoever got this advice, they were in distress. But here Shakuntala was in distress. Shakuntala was in such a distressed position, she could advise, she could preach others, she could preach the king in such a way that, it is highly significant. So here Shakuntala stands tall apart because of this particular act. With so much of distress, agony, and in front of a huge assembly, she stood for herself and her son, showing how King Dushyanta is not following the dharma, which is something unimaginable and remarkable. It is not done by any other hero or heroine in either Ramayana or Mahabharata or any other Puranic literature. You can't see that. So Shakuntala is empowered in her values. She is optimistic and hopeful. It is not seen in any other entire epic or epic literature or Puranic literature. So here Shakuntala was one of the greatest person, empowered person who is optimistic, hopeful, resilient, assertive. You could say that. Next slide, please. Next slide. So if we imagine the context, then a lone woman is standing in front of a huge assembly, being rejected by her husband, another 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Where she met him only once and united with him. No one was witnessing that. She tried her best to reach him with dharma. Nothing worked out. Okay. She preaches him how he, as a duty-bound king, not to abandon his wife. That also goes in vain. Then she brings the heart-touching issue of father-son attachment, again making no impact on Dushyanta. Dushyanta still, he does not believe her. He questions her birth as a law and defames her. He also asks her to go wherever she wants. If we imagine ourselves in the context, okay, we would have been helpless or hopeless. Would have been collapsed. Almost go to the extent of, we lose ourselves. Shakuntala was not like that. Still Shakuntala confronted Dushyanta. After all this, if you are not going to follow dharma, if you are not going to follow the truth, it doesn't matter. I'm going to quit you. I'm going to divorce you. He doesn't use the exact word divorce, okay? But approximately the same. I'm going to quit and go back to my father's house. But remember, after your death, my son Sarvadhamana is going to rule this kingdom. She ends her statement like this and she walks away. Then the divine voice interferes and, there's a different thing. Okay, she asked Dushyanta to forgive her and take her back. And, Dushyanta tells what is the reason why he refused to accept her in the beginning. But we can understand that with all this kind of trauma and the shocking thing, Shakuntala was able to stand for herself, defend herself with all the righteous and appropriate behavior, with dharma. She could preach Dushyanta in such a way that nobody has done that. Nobody who was in distress in Ramayana or Mahabharata. Of course, some people do that. I think Hanumanta had done in Ramayana, but Hanumanta was not in distress. Here herself, Shakuntala herself was in distress. She could preach about Dharma to Dushyanta. That's unparalleled. It is not easy for any ordinary person to do that in real life. Go to the next slide. So Shakuntala says, before whatever her final statements, you see it working the fault of others, even though they be as small as mustard seed. But you notice not their own flowers, even though they be as large as bilwa fruit. Then she ends with, O sinless one, I refer to it for example's sake and not from evil motives. She was proud of her being, her origin. And she says her capabilities. I am much capable than you. You are a human person, you are born on earth. I born through celestials. I could go and, I could go to different places like Yamaloka, Kuveraloka, Varunaloka and all, or Indraloka. But you can't do that. So it shows Shakuntala has a pride in herself, and also there is humility. She was not arrogant. She was not indecisive in her pride. And it is not easy to be humble within the pride quality, showing the pride as a value. Next one. So we observe that some of these speeches by Shakuntala are the maturity of the person as an experienced guide and a counselor. She provides examples after examples, which comes out of her empathetic understanding and the context. She provides choice for him, either be truthful and accept his son, and continue to be in his denial mode and falling in his footsteps. She provides option, which is not easy for an ordinary person to do that, doing such kind of intense distress. So some of her demeanor is very difficult to be practiced. There is no evidence in Mahabharata or in Puranic literature about similar personalities. Shakuntala is the epitome of a complete human being with all the ideal qualities and values one could aspire to. What we see in Rama or in Krishna, such kind of qualities were observed in Shakuntala. Last slide, please. So Shakuntala of Mahabharata in Krishna Dvaipayana version is not a passive, lovable person who has gone through heart-wrenching periods of sufferings due to the amnesia of her husband Dushyanta. She is not a victim here, but self-controlled, mature and optimistic person. She is loving, caring and assertive about herself and her identity. She confronted Dushyanta in a distress condition in such a way that she stands tall with positivity like a Meru mountain. Shakuntala's demeanor is unparalleled and proves that she is one of the finest human characters of ancient India, probably in our civilization. We don't see such kind of personality in any other literature. Okay. And Shakuntala is the only one person. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vijayendra Kumar ji.